What is going on, everybody? For the low price of $9.99, you too can subscribe to the Xbox 2 podcast and get all podcast episodes for free and future episodes. Oh, wait. I kind of want to do a little riff on that. For the low price of $9.99. What is going on, guys? Thanks for joining the Xbox 2 today. I'm one of your hosts, Randall Thor 19, the man with the million. And with me, as always, my buddy Jez Corden from Windows Central. What's going on, Jez?
Hi. How are you?
Hi.
How are you, pal?
You know, when you joined earlier, your picture, and I'm like, dude, where's Cat Jez?
Oh, no, yeah. He's got a name, actually. His name's Percy. Apparently, so my friend named him Percy. So.
Percy?
Percy, the Xbox cat. That's his name.
Percy?
Yeah, that's his name. Not a fan? Not a fan?
No, I mean, I love Cat Jez. In fact, I saw you did a 3D render on Twitter.
Yeah. I'm working on my 3D skills so I can join Microsoft Studios and make some games for them, you
know. Yeah. Oh boy, guys, we have lots to talk about. So much happened yesterday. Xbox Game Pass, Microsoft announcing all their first party games will be going in. So that is going to be a huge topic of discussion for this episode. So, strap it in. We got a lot to talk about because there's a lot of different angles you can go on it. But of course, that's not all there is. Jez played Sea of Thieves beta today, and he can actually talk about his experiences now. So we're going to be talking about that. My PSVR, I got PlayStation VR. I actually put that thing on my head, and I was immersed into the world of virtual reality. And I will give my thoughts on that. And as well as some little news that broke today that Anthem is not a 2018 game. Shocker. I know.
That's a teeth dry, that is.
Yeah, so, those are all kind of the things on docket, at least, and then whatever else we want to talk about. So thanks, guys, for joining. If you want to show your support and like the show, whatever, hit the like button, all that good stuff. Send out the link, share it out on Twitter, all that good stuff, so we can get more people in here. So before we get all that started, we always talk about what we've played recently. And I guess this could be the Sea of Thieves segment or whatever, because, Jez, what have you been playing, buddy?
Sea of Thieves, believe it or not. Finally, open beta is here, although it's not far removed from the alpha, although I probably can't talk about the alpha because the NDA is still in place. But anyway, it's not far removed from the versions that I played at recent trade shows. But yeah, open beta is here finally. I think there's tens of thousands of people in the game now. Blah blah blah, and it's pretty awesome. Although I want to stress, this is a small slice of what is supposed to be coming down the line. Apparently, now, this is what they say. That there are more features planned, and this should be seen more of as a demo, a demonstration of the game. But yeah, I've been playing it. Have you been playing it, Rand?
I mean, I played it. I played it in the alpha. I played it with my buddy Magic. I played it with Phil, and I played it with Unequalized Joe. But that's the only time I played, other than playing it at E3. I'm not one for betas really, because I kind of just want to go in pure. You know what I mean? Like sometimes I played betas where like I hated the beta and it kind of like put me in a sour mood to the game, and then I actually got the game and I loved it. So I kind of just want to experience Sea of Thieves with the full breadth of content that it's going to have when it launches on May 20th. But with that said, I will check it out. I'm not going to play it for long. I might check it out for 5 hours just to see what's there, but I'm not looking to play it for like 50 hours or anything like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand. I feel the same way. I used to play I used to beta test a lot of things, and then when you get the full game, half of the magic is ruined because you've seen it in this sort of broken state previously. So, but I can't put Sea of Thieves down, even in its sort of early sort of form. Doesn't have Xbox One X enhancements yet. I think it doesn't have a lot of features that were planned and promised and teased in that original trailer. Blah blah blah.
Well, it's a beta. I mean, it's a game that's 2 months out. It's kind of more of an actual beta. Most betas and alphas these days are marketing gimmicks. Yeah. The game's coming out in a week. Like the Dragon Ball Z beta that happened last night. The game's coming out in 2 days. What are they what was there to beta test? The game's coming out in 2 days.
What are they going to change based on that?
Yeah,
2 days of stuff.
So I mean, they got 2 months. They're very community focused. Like they really take the feedback into the game, and Rare wants this game to be big. And looking at the numbers on Twitch and Mixer, it was number 1 on Twitch, number 1 on Mixer. Like there seems to be a lot of interest, at least in the game. To hit number 1 on both spots. Microsoft, I think, needs to capitalize on that and start, really kind of advertising Sea of Thieves, because the interest is there in a way it wasn't there for previous Xbox exclusive games. What do you think about
that? I agree. I was surprised to see the amount of interest this is getting on Twitch and Mixer and YouTube gaming, actually. And I was really surprised. We had our biggest ever game stream today on Mixer. Like, usually we can only pull in over 200 viewers when Zach Bowden is talking on the mic with his very posh London accent. For the Windows Central podcast, but we managed. I think we had like 280 viewers for Sea of Thieves this morning, and I just couldn't believe it. We've never had a podcast, a game stream that big before. So there is an incredible amount of interest in this game, and it's just so much to do. I mean, I'll tell you some of the stuff that happened in our streams, because it's this. You create like a story when you play Sea of Thieves. You're crafting this like story, this live emergent adventure, and there's always something a little bit different in each game, kind of like PUBG in that sense. Whereas like PUBG, like at its core, PUBG is not that complicated, but the fun of PUBG is the emergence of player interaction that occurs as you're playing the game. And I was streaming earlier in a 2-man ship with Matt Brown from Windows Central, and we were attacked by a 4-man ship in our 2-man ship, and they pulled up right next to us, and they started nuking our little boat with like 3 cannons, and we were just there parked. We were like about to explore an island, and but Matt had just bought the shotgun, which you can buy as an extra weapon, and not many people in the bay have the shotgun yet. So he just went up on their boat and shot and killed 2 of them straight away. And then I sniped another one. And then Matt ran up to him and finished him off with a sword. And then he drove away with the boat. And there was just one guy left on this 4-man ship. And we just wrecked all of them and ran away. It felt truly pirate-esque, Well,
the game's all about those emergent experiences, right? Like it's all about you kind of making your own story and stumbling across something and have an epic kind of an encounter, rather than kind of a set way of like playing like a set series of events, right?
Yeah, definitely. It's and there are people saying, like Rain City Gamers just said in chat, that there isn't much to do. Go on an island, dig with treasure, kill the same skeletons, blah blah blah. This is a beta. That is the only gameplay loop that's in the beta. So like in the full game, there's going to be different trade companies, and the trade companies, they give you different types of quests. There's only one trade company in the beta, and it's the trade company that asks you to dig up treasure. There's a trade company that wants you to kill bosses, basically. And as you get more reputation, you'll eventually go all the way up to these huge bosses and these huge boss battles and stuff like that. And stuff like that. But none of it's in the beta. So, but the thing is, a lot of gamers these days, they feel this entitlement, and they're like, I want my beta to be a preview of the full game. Because like you said earlier, so many of these game developers, they use betas as marketing gimmicks now. They're not beta testers. They're not beta testing for feedback. And exactly, like for example, the Kraken, which they teased in the very first trailer, they've not even shown that yet because they're waiting to show it off properly. So yeah, it's just kind of sad, really, that people.
I mean, but then again, this is the era we live in. Like you kind of got to roll with the times. Like people are expecting a certain standard of content, because considering like
it's a risk. It is a risk to put the game out there in this kind of state. It's a risk, and it's to put it in there with such with missing so much of the content, it's a risk because people do take betas as a demo nowadays, and it's evident from the chat. People saying, "Oh, you're damage controlling it." Well, I'm not damage controlling anything because I haven't played the full game. Although I am playing the full game next week, actually.
What? Are you going out to Rare?
I am going out to Rare next week, and I'm going to play the full game, which is why I'm damage controlling it, because I know things that I can't talk about.
There you go. Jez taking a trip.
Judge it after they've revealed the full game.
Yeah. I mean, look, I'm looking forward to the game, right? I want to get the game. I want to get the full experience because, like, I'll give any game a chance. You're talking to a dude who's played a Barbie game or My Horse and Me game. Like, I'll play anything. I'll give anything a chance. I have Rand's Indie Spotlight on the channel dedicated to the smaller games that come out. I'll give stuff a chance. I don't really have any preconceived notions about games in my head. Sure, there are some games I'm not interested in, that I'm not really fond of, like a genre. Persona 5 is that type of game, or Neo, or the Dark Souls stuff, because that just doesn't really appeal to me. But, like, I've never come out and said Persona 5 sucks or Dark Souls sucks. It just doesn't appeal to me. Now, would I ever play those games? Of course. If the time came and, like, Persona 5 was sitting in front of me, I would give it the same sort of treatment I give any other game that I would play. I go in with the blank slate and I play the game. So, Sea of Thieves, I'm going in with the blank slate. I want to see what it is because, I mean, my number 5 game last year, the game that I played the most this year so far, probably, and last year, is PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, a game that I thought I would never like, number 1, and number 2, a game that I didn't think I'd play for over 5 hours. Right? And here it is. I'm approaching 200 hours on PUBG. It has no achievements, and I'm an achievement dude. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what I like anymore. Like, I'll try it out with Sea of Thieves. I'll play with my friends. I'll play with maybe even some subscribers to the channel. I mean, we'll probably start doing that sometime in the future. And we'll see how it goes. If I like it, I'll say I like it. And if I don't like it, I don't like it. That's how I've always kind of done things here on the channel,
Yeah, I agree. It's but I appreciate that Microsoft hasn't been doing enough to explain what you actually do in Sea of Thieves, and it's because they've been waiting until it's in a demonstrable state, So for those who think we're damage controlling it or think I'm damage controlling it, just wait a little bit longer. Wait until they reveal the full thing, and then make your choice on it. And I'll put my hands up and say I was wrong. I believe something that wasn't real.
Yeah.
But I truly believe in Sea of Thieves. I truly believe in it. I truly believe in the vision they've got for it, and I truly believe it's going to be a big game. I think it's going to be a big game.
Microsoft and Rare got to strike while iron's hot. I know people are excited about Sea of Thieves. You can see it in the streams on Mixer and Twitch, but they got to keep on. They got to just hammer it home. You got to like. I haven't seen this much interest in an Xbox game. I mean, you could say Gears of War 4, but even Gears of War 4 didn't really hit the heights that you've seen pre-release, like on Twitch and Mixer. And even Halo 5 didn't. Like this, maybe because it's a new IP, maybe because this is a perfect streaming game, I'm not really sure. But they need to strike while the iron's hot, like, because they could potentially have something big on their hands. I don't know.
Rare's name carries a lot of weight too, I think. I think a lot of people... Rare flew under the radar for a long time because they were just making Kinect games, But this is supposed to be the grand return of Rare to the forefront, and as one of Microsoft's, premier studios, up there with Coalition and 343 and Turn 10, and it could and the Minecraft studio. It could be it could be another huge pillar for Microsoft. And it's like Buddy Boy says, Rare's name has faded over the years, but there are a lot of people who are still huge fans of Rare. And if Rare nails it, they could totally be back up there in the spotlight. And I believe in them. This whole studio is working incredibly hard. And I've met a lot of them. I've always met Rare at the trade shows that I've been to, and I've seen more of Sea of Thieves than most people, I think, at this point, which is why I believe in it.
I met Craig Duncan. I interviewed Craig Duncan. Craig Duncan's a great dude. Hell, I would love for him to come on the podcast and talk to me and you.
That'd
Like
be great.
that'd be cool. Like Craig Duncan's he's a great dude. So I hope Sea of Thieves is great. And whenever I play it, I'm sure I'll put out a video detailing my impressions of the beta. Maybe I won't. Maybe I'll just wait for the full game. But outside of Sea of Thieves, outside of your, obviously very positive reactions to the beta and that we can talk openly about it. I mean, have you just been playing World of Warcraft, or is that pretty much it?
Pretty much. I've been playing. Well, that's the other thing, Rand. I've been fully addicted to World of Warcraft for the past 2 months now. And Sea of Thieves beta is the first game that's managed to pull me away from it. But yeah, other than that, I've just been playing World of Warcraft still and PUBG here and there just for streaming. I jumped back on Overwatch to try the new map and buy some of the new skins because I've got a massive coins in Overwatch, and I just bought a bunch of skins and then lockdowns again. But it's that's it, man. There just hasn't been that much to play. I'm looking forward to Monster Hunter World. That comes out Friday.
Yeah, it comes out. Well, it launches tomorrow night, but yeah, Friday.
Yeah,
same thing with Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna skip Dragon Ball Z, even though I do like the look of it. But
it looks so good.
I can't fit it in. I want to play Monster Hunter World, man. I've got to.
I have no interest in Monster Hunter World, like zero interest, and I really don't have that much interest in Dragon Ball Hunter Z, outside of the fact that game looks great. Like I'm really into Dragon Ball ever, and I'm not that much of a fighter fan. But I will say Dragon Ball it looks amazing. But I think I'll pass on both of those games. So
yeah, I don't know. What I'm gonna do with Dragon Ball is I'm going to decide based on reviews of the story, because I really like Dragon Ball's story. So I'm interested to see how it's depicted in game. If it has a campaign mode, I don't even know. But yeah, you called it Dragon Ball Hunter Z.
Whatever. Whatever.
That'd be a cool game. Like you playing as Goku but fighting giant monsters. I'd play that.
So what have I played? PUBG, and PUBG. Well, PUBG. I mean, you saw the clip I posted the other day where I snuck up on that team. They thought they had us, and I jumped out the window.
That was glorious, man. I was smiling ear to ear when I saw that.
It was so good. Like there are just so many different. Like every game we play is so different, and what it happens like when we play, it's like we get a chicken dinner and then we get second place, and then we get a chicken dinner and then we get second place.
Oh, I noticed that like a lot of the top PUBG players are mixer streamers. I've noticed. Yeah. Like I think Magnetron is number one in the world right now.
Yeah, he's pretty good. But I just wanted to shout out new sponsor to the channel, Don Julio Mustache.
Oh wow, cool.
For sponsoring the channel. Thank you very much. But yeah, PUBG. And what else have I played? Oh yeah, PSVR. So I figured, you know what? Let's talk about some PSVR impressions really quick here. So shout out to J-Dub, aka Kratos. You might know him on Twitter. He gives away a lot of stuff, right? A lot of PlayStation stuff, a lot of Xbox stuff. He was like, I'm going to send you a PSVR. And initially I was like, no, don't, like, please don't. Like, there are people more deserving or, less fortunate than me. Like, why don't you go help them out? But he was like, no, I want to give this to you. So he sent me a PSVR with Gran Turismo Sport. And I finally...
What a nice dude.
I know, very nice dude. He gets a little bit of a bad rap because, number one, he's a Sony fan, right? Like, clear as day. I mean, obviously, with a name like Kratos, what would you expect? But he's a really nice dude, and he trolls. He's a troll on Twitter. He lives to get responses.
I think I know him. Right? I think I know him on Twitter. I don't think he's ever trolled.
A lot of people don't like him because they think he's being serious when he trolls. But Jay's a great. So I got the package. And I opened it up, and I gotta say, Sony did. I mean, the initial opening of the box, stellar. Like the stellar presentation in the box. It's really premium, and it should be because that's really expensive. And then I started to hook it up, and I have to say, there are a ton of wires, metric ton of wires all over the place. Like you have this like new like processor unit that hooks into the PlayStation, that hooks into the TV, that hooks into the camera back into the PlayStation, that hooks into the unit. It's like, whoo, there are wires running.
The thing is, man,
everywhere.
The thing is, like, even Windows Mixed Reality, like Windows Mixed Reality has 2 cables, one for HDMI and one for USB, and I think that's too much. I hate that's the one big downside with VR is the amount of bloody cables you have to deal with on any platform. So
I mean, the headsets seem nice. Like, you get a bunch of wires everywhere, and I have a bunch of games for PSVR. Like, I downloaded Until Dawn: Rush of Blood, Playroom VR, like a couple other games that got the demo disc and stuff there. And like Resident Evil 7, just some of that stuff. I wanted to see if I would like VR in the first place. I've never experienced it, right? Like, I do get vertigo from time. Like, I have vertigo right now. I came down with the case of it, so I was kind of a little wary about playing with VR. So I put the headset on, and everything was like out of focus. And I started it up, and I like was looking at the screen, and like I felt claustrophobic. Like, I couldn't like see anything. Everything was like smudged and nothing. And like the little earbuds they give you aren't very good. And I'm just like, oh man, I don't know. Like, I took it off, and I'll come back to this later. I played some more PUBG, right? So I came back one day. We got off PUBG early, and I'm like, you know what? Screw it. I'm gonna try to figure out this VR thing. So like, I was screwing around with the headset, and finally, suddenly, everything just like appeared beautifully. It like locked in place, and it like I could focus, and everything just was right. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna play something. Right? People told me, Rand, don't start with GT Sport or any locomotion games because you're gonna get sick. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. So I started off with some Playroom VR games, and as soon as I started that stuff, like the smile on my face, Jez, you have no idea. Like, I was like sitting there looking around, standing up, like looking like, and it was just like, this is the cool, like, holy crap, right? So I did one of these games in Playroom VR where it's like a platformer, right? I'm not sure what the name of it is, but honestly, it's like one of the coolest gaming experiences I've ever had in my entire life. It like everything just looked fantastic. And like I'd like look around and see a little character up to my left, or like using the controller, like seeing it on screen and then using it to like pull the rope. And I'm like, oh my God, this is freaking amazing. I get it now. I understand why people like VR. Like, I'm experiencing this and I'm like, oh my God, this is absolutely freaking incredible. I'm not sure what the name was, but it was like a little platforming game. And like, I was like, oh God, this is freaking amazing. And then I'm going to try a different one, right? And I played one where like, you start off like kind of like in a giant mech, and then you put your controller in a Gatling gun, and then you're controlling the Gatling gun, and like these things are coming at you. And I'm like holding the right trigger, trying to like shoot these like polygon things that are coming at you. And like, I'm having a hell of a time. This is amazing. Right? Like, I've never experienced something like that before. I'm like, I'm having a great time. And I'm like, oh, fuck yeah. I get it now. Like, VR is awesome. Like, just these 2 small experiences, right? Just whatever demos they are in this Playroom VR thing. And I was like, okay, let me try something else. And a lot of the games in Playroom VR, I guess, need more than 2 people. And I didn't have 2 people to play with, so I was only looking for like 1 person, right? So I'm like, okay, you know, I'll try a different game. And I should have tried Res Infinite, or I should have tried Resident Evil 7, even though it's the game I played. But I decided to play Until Dawn because I like Until Dawn. Like, I really enjoyed playing Until Dawn. And I was like, okay, well, I'm a fan of Until Dawn. Here's a VR version of this game. And it was like a rail shooter on a roller coaster, right? And like right from the beginning, it wasn't good. Like, from the second I started it up, I'm like, oh, this isn't good, right? I mean, it tracked well. I could shoot the things with the controller very well. And keep in mind, I don't have like the motion, like the 2 sticks. So I'm like using the controller, and I'm going along the thing, and it starts going up like a roller coaster would to get to the top to drop you. And as I'm going up, I realized, oh my God, like, I'm going to get sick here in this drop. And I knew it. And as soon as I dropped, and as soon as it started picking up speed and drop, my head started swimming. I started getting a headache. My stomach started to get like just bile, and I literally had to pause the game and take the helmet off. Like I couldn't take it.
Oh, that's
Like
not.
even though I know I'm not moving, like I'm sitting in my chair playing this game, I'm not moving, but like my brain is obviously telling, or my eyes are obviously telling my brain you're moving, and I'm getting all these sensations, and I'm like, I don't feel good. I started sweating, like, and then I went to the bathroom and I started just standing over the toilet like spitting, like, oh man, I don't feel
Oh
good,
no,
and then it just I threw up, and
that's
that was
bad.
it. Yeah. But I'm not going to let that deter me from playing PSVR. It's just one experience. Maybe locomotion, I shouldn't have done that, and maybe next time I should take motion sickness stuff. Um, but yeah, like I'm excited to try out other games like the two I played in Playroom VR.
Hmm.
So that's kind of my experience. I'm not exaggerating. If you think I'm exaggerating, I'm not exaggerating.
Well, this is the thing, Ryan. Right? I got not PSVR. I got Windows Mixed Reality back in November, and when I first played it, I felt exactly like you. It's like, oh my god, this is amazing. I played like tons of games on Steam VR. Like I played Super Hot. By the way, you got to play Super Hot VR. It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. And so Arizona Sunshine, which is like a zombie shooter game, very very cool too. But here's the thing, Rand. It's been in the drawer for about 2 months now, gathering dust. And I'll
Mm.
tell you why. It's all that inconvenience, man. It's just like, yeah, it's an amazing experience, but it's so inconvenient having to get it out, dust it off, clean the lenses, plug it in, two cables everywhere, make sure you've got loads of space. You're cutting yourself off from the rest of the world, which means can't talk to anyone, you can't check your notifications, blah blah blah. For me, it just doesn't fit into my lifestyle, and it's just too inconvenient. Now, if it had no cables and I could just plop it on, plop it off, hang it on a wall or something, blah blah, fine. But for me right now, the experience is just so clunky, and it just feels like a demo. The whole thing feels like a proof of concept, not a fully fledged product to me, which is why I've just left it in the drawer now, which is a shame. And I'm excited to see where VR goes, but I still don't think it's ready for the mainstream.
I mean, it would be great if it was a wireless headset for sure. I mean, I don't know, maybe because there was like, this thing on like that was kind of falling off the helmet, like the thing that kind of held the inline cord with the thing. I think it was supposed to be like taped or at least like fastened to the headset, but it was kind of falling off. So I had to like, it was falling off and it was like over my shoulder. That's the thing. Like I'm in this beautiful world. It looks great. I'm enjoying my time, but at the same time, I feel the pressure of the helmet on my head, right? I feel this cord like running like down the back, like over my shoulder. And I'm like, it's kind of like taking me a little bit out of the experience because I can feel, and like, but for that initial like moment of gameplay, for those first like 35 minutes when I was playing it, like it was like the coolest thing I've experienced in gaming in forever. Maybe since the first time I like fired, maybe since the first time I started up like Punch Out when I was a kid and seeing like a Nintendo game for the first time.
No, I
Like
agree.
I
That's how
legit was just, this is, I understand why people like it, and I understand why people say like this is the future because it's so just immersive.
they've just got to fix all those problems. Like, it shouldn't be making you feel sick, for example. It shouldn't have to be such an effort to get involved when like regular gaming is just so easy, you know. And it's not a case of it being different. It's not like you get used to it. It's just too much of a ball ache for me.
Yeah.
Uh, and some people happily deal with it, but I just can't. And I think it's because like I'm just a mainstream lazy gamer, and it's like the Connect thing all over again. I played like I really enjoyed Blue Estate on Connect. Blue Estate was the game on Connect that made me think. It took me back to my days of like on rail shooters in the arcade, like Time Crisis and House of the Dead and stuff like that, and it worked really well. And I was like, damn, that's really cool. But again, it's too inconvenient. Don't want to stand up. Don't want to stand up at my TV. Don't want to clear space out for the TV. Blah blah blah, and all that sort of stuff. I don't want to have to. Gaming shouldn't be an effort, and VR is just a huge effort. I think. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe
I mean,
I'm just
didn't you
ridiculous.
play mixed reality just the other day? Didn't they show you the way?
No, actually, Rand. That's the thing. I streamed VR chat, which is that whole show me the way meme thing, and we streamed VR chat. But guess what? I wasn't playing VR. I played the desktop version because I couldn't be bothered to
Okay.
get my headset.
Okay.
But that's the thing. No one else playing VR chat was actually using VR. You know, like because I was playing with Zach Bowden, and he was using VR, which meant like his hands were moving around, and when he was walking around, his character looked more expressive, and his mouth was and his head was moving, blah blah blah, like head tracking and hand tracking, all that stuff. And everyone around kept coming up to him because they realized he was the only person actually in VR. So they immediately assumed he was a YouTuber making a video or something, because almost everyone trying to find the way weren't using VR, right? They were just using the desktop version, which you can play with an Xbox controller. So it's funny, you know, by the way, in VR chat, there are like tutorials on how to use Xbox controller with it. So it's almost as if VR chat might come to Xbox, but that's just completely something else entirely. But
so I'll make a longer video about my thoughts on PSVR when I get more experience, and I want to play a variety of games. I only played 2. I played 3, or the one kind of like, you know, got me sick, but I still want to try out like Res Infinite, and of course everybody says Resident Evil 7 is good, and I already played that game, so I'll test it out. I'll try the demo disc. You know, Sam Tolbert and Chad and my buddy Nick, he said that Moss seems pretty amazing, and that's on the demo disc. So there's some demo disc games I want to try out, and then I'll make a proper video. But my initial impression is like I posted that GIF of Hugh Jackman in that one movie where he's just like looking up in awe, like, oh my god, like, because that's how I felt. That's literally how I felt.
where's that from? That GIF?
It's like I've seen the movie. I know if Gopher's watching. Gopher, tell me what the name of the movie is. It was Hugh Jackman. The 3 different timelines. The one girl from the Mummy movies. He's a film professor. He has a master's in film.
Film? Really?
Yeah, he's got his master's degree in film.
That's impressive.
And, yeah. And I'm sure if I know he's listening. I know he's watching because he always does. There we go. Don Julio Mustache says The Fountain. There you go. I love that movie. It's great. I just couldn't remember the name of it. But yeah, that GIF, like that's how I felt, man. And I'm looking forward. I just don't want to like get sick again. And maybe locomotion stuff isn't for me. But that's my initial impressions about PSVR. So, all right, Jez. Well, now that that's out over, what we played, you know, the Sea of Thieves stuff, PSVR stuff. We have a couple things we could talk about, and I'm going to leave this to you. Do you want to talk about Anthem really quickly, or do you want to get to the meat of what this podcast is probably going to be about? Do you want to talk about the Game Pass stuff?
Well, should we get Anthem out of the way first, and then we can do Game Pass for the rest of the show, and then
because the Game Pass stuff, there's so many different factors of it. So Kotaku ran with the story. Well, we all know Anthem. Anthem was a game Microsoft showed off last at E3. It was basically BioWare's Destiny killer. It was a third-person game from BioWare. Supposed to come out in 2018. And then the whole loot box controversy with Star Wars Battlefront 2 kind of soured people on EA in general. And then Kotaku ran an article today basically saying that the game's been delayed to early 2019. And a whole bunch of stuff, which I think you are writing an article for Windows Central, right? I don't know if you published it yet, but how do you feel about Anthem getting delayed to 2019?
Well, I think it's. I literally wrote this in the article. If true, you can file this under you for unsurprising, and that's basically what you said when we talked about it off air. Is anyone really surprised about Anthem being delayed? Seriously, it's like. No one expected that to not get delayed.
No.
But especially after the year EA's had. EA 2017 was awful for EA. It was awful. I mean, I'm sure they're wiping their tears away with, you know, the $100 bills. But as far as the company's image, I think it's the worst year since I've been like following gaming and really paying attention to gaming. I think this has been the worst year for EA. Last year was that the whole thing with Mass Effect Andromeda, the controversy there. They shut down Visceral. and beloved studio, maker of Dead Space, put loads of people on unemployment out of the blue. They cancelled that single player Star Wars game because and they basically blamed gamers for doing that. Rand in the EA CEO said gamers don't want single player Star Wars game. You want a loot crate game. That's basically what he said in his explanation. So he blamed gamers for killing Visceral and shutting down that single player game, and then the whole Star Wars Battlefront thing. My God, what a shitstorm! You had people petitioning governments to get involved. You had mainstream media covering it. Like even like the BBC was covering these loot crates things, and it's like very rarely does the BBC cover video games, anything video game related, and it's like, oh my God, EA's loot crate controversy is in the BBC. They dragged the brand of Star Wars through the mud. Disney's flagship, which is probably arguably Disney's flagship movie brand now, they dragged it through the mud, and it was a terrible year for them. And so obviously now everyone's looking at Anthem.
And they're doubling down on Anthem. They said in the article, like the studio is basically Anthem Studio now, right? Yeah. They're doubling down on it.
Well, it also says, okay, because there's BioWare Edmonton and BioWare Austin, and they're both working on Anthem. However, they're also working on Dragon Age 4 on the side. Now, Dragon Age 4 hasn't even been announced yet. Nope. But it's kind of like where is the room for Dragon Age 4, which is it's Dragon Age 4 has to be better than Dragon Age Inquisition, which was a pretty huge game, and then The Witcher 3 came out and completely changed what people's perception of what an open world RPG should be. So Dragon Age 4 has to at least be as good as The Witcher 3 to even compete. How are they gonna get enough room? Enough juice out of BioWare to create Anthem, a Destiny killer, and Dragon Age 4, which is supposedly going to be this open world RPG as well. How are they going to do that? They ain't going to pull that off.
I don't know. I mean, like, number one, I'm not surprised it's 2019. I never had faith it was going to hit 2018, especially considering if it was going to hit 2018, it'd be the fall. And EA's fall games are usually FIFA, Madden during late summer, and a Battlefield game. Like a RPG game like that what they wanted to be never really struck me as like a fall release. So they said it's supposed to release obviously by the end of March 2019, which is the end of EA's fiscal year, which makes sense. I mean, you could probably launch that game early 2019 and get a lot of traction on it. But honestly, this went from like I had Anthem, one of my most anticipated after E3, like Max and all this stuff, like the mech suit you get. I'm like, I'm down for this. And then everything happened with EA during the course of the year. And when I made my most anticipated video, I didn't include Anthem because I just don't care anymore. Like, I'm just like over Anthem. Like, they're going to have to like resell me on the concept of that game again.
Seriously, it's like, I mean, it says in the report that, I mean, this report's from Kotaku, and Kotaku doesn't, Kotaku doesn't, for all the shit that Kotaku gets thrown at it, but a lot of it deserved. Kotaku's sources are pretty great usually, and the Kotaku says that BioWare developers told them that there's a huge amount of pressure in the studio to deliver now after all the shit EA had flung at them last year. They're even worried that BioWare could be shut down if Anthem fails, and all this sort of stuff, and it's got like completely change the way they feel about Anthem and stuff like that.
I mean, Jez, this is EA after all. They are the killer of studios they acquire. So if Destiny or if Anthem doesn't do well, BioWare was set to be destroyed from the minute EA bought them. It was only a matter of time. It always happens. So if Anthem doesn't meet what EA needs, well, it's over. And you know what else kind of factored into all this? The fact that everybody seems to hate Destiny 2 now. Everywhere you go, everybody they were running. Like I just saw a couple articles saying that Destiny 2, like the numbers on Twitch are the lowest it's ever been. People are going actually back to Destiny 1. I saw Goliathon, who was like the biggest Twitch streamer. He's done with Destiny 2. Dano does Destiny's like stop. Like people are fed up with Bungie's BS with Destiny 2, and they're leaving the game.
I saw an analyst, a big Wall Street analyst, whatever, who advises people on what stock to buy, they're revising against. Well, they were basically giving advice to say that Destiny 2 is underperforming. There's a lot of anxiety about Destiny 2 because of the loot crates thing, which was caused by EA. Anxiety about the loot crates in Destiny 2, even though they're not as aggressive as. Even though they're not as aggressive or as impactful on gameplay as Battlefront 2's were, the fact that so many mechanics revolve around these bright engrams and the whole thing, the whole throttling thing, like where the more you play Destiny 2, the less you earn because they don't want you earning those loot crates too fast without paying real money, and the fact that Bungie keeps lying about it and all the time, and just the lack of transparency, they're totally fucking it up. And because of that, analysts are saying, don't expect Activision to do well this year. Their projections have been lowered for Activision because of Destiny's failure, basically.
Yeah. I mean, at least that was
personally
offset by Call of Duty World War II's huge success. I mean, Activision's lucky on that one because, like, Call of Duty World War II is a phenomenon from everything I've seen. Like,
Call of Duty World War II is it's a good Call of Duty game. It's hard to. I mean, it's still got the ridiculous loot crates thing, especially like the loot crates falling from the sky on Normandy Beach is borderline offensive.
I think they took that out. They said that's no longer the default headquarters is no longer the default option when you spawn in. Now you can choose something else, or I was just reading about it.
Well, even still, it shows how that it's how loot crates have just usurped the whole industry.
Yeah, and people need to be careful. Like, even in Kotaku's article about Anthem, about all this stuff, is like all the publishers and devs, they're all like kind of tiptoeing around the microtransaction stuff.
Well, put it this way, I've been told that Sea of Thieves won't have loot crates.
Yeah, and maybe it would have if stuff didn't happen last year. I mean, who knows? And another part of the article I wanted to mention, was that they also believe that certain YouTubers are also kind of to blame for this. They didn't mention who.
But that's the thing, though. It's not YouTubers reflect the opinion of the public. If a YouTuber goes against the prevailing opinion, they piss people off. So they just look at what's popping on Reddit. So, like, if you go to Reddit and you see an opinion piece that's getting loads of upvotes, that means everybody agrees. And then if you're a YouTuber, you say, oh, everyone agrees with this. I'm gonna put my stamp on this opinion, and then everyone's gonna click on my video because I agree with them and I'm a gamer just like them. So I think the whole blaming YouTubers thing is just a way for EA to try and shift the blame.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, but they said they're spreading misinformation about the game before they can even, before the game's even out. So, I mean, I'm sure they're talking about Jim Sterling and Young Yi, both guys.
I mean, Jim Sterling is he's super aggressive, but I haven't known Jim Sterling to make shit up or fake news it. Does he?
I mean, I don't watch all of his videos. I mean, I enjoy his videos just like I enjoy Young Yi's videos, but I mean, if you're making a game, like, it's kind of like, they're talking about Anthem and what it supposedly has, but like, they've only really shown the game once and they haven't showed it. I mean, I guess if there really are misinformation that's being spread around, then I could see people being upset. But
well, I haven't. For example, we wrote an article, or I wrote an article, the most anticipated 2018 games for Xbox, 2018 and beyond. A bunch of people in the comments were like, why isn't Anthem on this list? And I put I am putting Anthem on this list until they confirm that it's not pay to win.
Yeah.
Because that's the situation we're in right now. I'm not going to give Anthem any coverage until they confirm it's not pay to win, because I don't want to be part of promoting that gameplay mechanic,
No.
And so I think if Jim Sterling is speculating that Anthem's going to be pay to win, EA has created that perception that that's what they want. They took the world's biggest, the most beloved franchise and put pay to win in it. So if they have the contempt to fuck up a game as beautiful as Battlefront 2 with their bullshit, what are they going to do with Anthem, which is their own game? They're willing to do that to Star Wars Battlefront. You can expect that it's going to be 10 times worth worse with Anthem. And I think that's a completely reasonable expectation to have. So I have got no expectations for Anthem to be good. I've got no expectations for Anthem at all.
I want to see real gameplay. I want to see I just need to be sold on the concept again, because I'm down on EA right now. I'm down on it, but
I'm so down on EA right now.
I know. And so before we talk about Game Pass really quickly, I just wanted to talk about God of War 4. Because that also had a trailer yesterday, story trailer, along with the release date. Well, the rumored release date was off by about a month, so instead of it being March 22nd, it is now April 20th. I would imagine that's kind of it probably got delayed right around PSX, which is why they were kind of joyfully kind of ribbing each other about it. Probably hit that month delay. I would imagine it was supposed to come out in March, but 1 month delay for whatever reason. I gotta say, that story trailer, whoo boy, I am so psyched, so much so that last night I went and I watched the story recap for God of War, all the God of War games except 3. So I'm caught up because I'm starting God of War 3 either tonight or tomorrow. So I'm going to run through God of War 3, but I wanted to catch up on the story. So I watched this 2-hour video catching me up on the events of Ghost of Sparta and Chains of Olympus and God of War 1 and God of War 2, because it's been a long time since I've played all of the God of War games. And honestly, that trailer, it reminded me a lot of Last of Us. I don't know, maybe it's because of the camera angles they use. Maybe it's because of the Kratos is caring for a younger child, kind of similar to how Last of Us was, but it reminded me very much, at least the way they put it, the camera, how the scenes they showed of God of War, Last of Us. I don't know. Did you get to check it out?
I haven't checked it out yet, actually. I just saw I saw some of the shorter clips, I think, just of the gameplay mechanics, and the combat looks so tight. It looks so tight. I think that's what I was looking at mainly, but I need to watch the full thing still. I haven't had a chance yet. But it looks really great. I think it could be the game that makes me buy a PS4.
I mean, it looks fantastic. I cannot wait to play that game on April 20th. And it's God of War versus Nintendo Labo. God of War versus Cardboard. Developers, if you're planning on launching a game on 420 this year, you better move aside. Ain't nobody got time for you.
What if they do God of Cardboard?
God of Cardboard. But anyways, so that's a little quick. I love the trailer. Jez is thinking about getting a PlayStation 4. The game looks phenomenal. Combat looks good, although it's a little bit of departure from the previous ones. But yeah, can't wait to play it. But now, big news, Jez. Game changing, potentially
game changing.
So let me set this up. I guess I'll set it up. As everybody knows, Microsoft announced Game Pass last year, launched in June. It was supposed to be this Netflix of gaming, this idea that you pay a low subscription fee, which is $9.99, so basically $10 a month, and you can have access to 100 plus games. Originally, when it came out, it was 100 plus games. Right now, there are 164 games in the service, and unlike PS Now, which is a streaming service, this is downloadable. So you can actually download all the games in the service. And of course, you can access and play all of those games anytime, as long as you're subscribed to the service and as long as those games are still in the service. And since the service has been available since June, only 2 games have actually been removed. And they've added, like I said, 60 some odd games to the service.
And it also includes PC versions of those games.
Yes.
If they're
so,
anywhere.
Yeah, if they're Play Anywhere, you can get the PC version as well. Now, last week, we talked about this in the podcast. I did a video about it. Z Huge had kind of teased that there was some sort of huge, very big announcement regarding the way Microsoft treats digital good games coming this week. And we were all expecting it, and it's honestly something a lot of people didn't really predict. In my video where I was predicting what it could be, and in the podcast with you, we tried theorizing some of the things that it could be. We didn't guess it. So what happened was Phil Spencer put out a message on Xbox Wire, and that going forward, Xbox Game Pass will include Xbox first-party titles from Microsoft Game Studios, day and date on the launch within Xbox Game Pass. So when Sea of Thieves launches on March 20th, at retail for $60. You can get it that way, or you can subscribe to Game Pass for $10 and actually buy it and play it that way. So they said all future first-party titles going forward are going to be in the Game Pass. They inadvertently or roundabout way also announced the next Halo, Gears of War, and Forza games. Like, that's a surprise. But in the article, they said the next Halo, Forza, and Gears. So basically, there you go. Halo 6 and Gears 5 already confirmed. This kind of further goes down. Microsoft is a service company. Like, clearly, they are very, very much backing services on the console. And there's a lot of factors to look into in this. And I did a video about it, 25 minutes long. I tried to look at it from every different possible angle as I did. I was very positive about it. And look, this is either going to be, I think, a huge success, or it could blow up in Microsoft's face. There's always positive and negatives to the way you change how people consume their media or their video games. Like, this could be a gigantic success, or this could be a huge failure. Only time will tell. But I gave my opinion in the video, and I'll give it again here in a second. But Jez, I haven't heard your take on this whatsoever. So go ahead. What do you think about all this?
I agree with you that it could be huge, and it could blow up in their face. But it's there's a lot of unknown factors here that I think a lot of detractors who say it's a bad thing, they're filling in the gaps in their knowledge with anxiety and fear about what could potentially go wrong here. So one of the criticisms of this whole system has been that no one's going to pre-order Microsoft games anymore, blah, blah, blah. They're not going to buy Microsoft games anymore. They're just going to subscribe to this service, and it'll lead to Microsoft having less money, and therefore the quality of Microsoft's exclusives will take a hit. Obviously, Microsoft have a lot of data on about could be a good move or not, and I would presume Microsoft has crunched the numbers pretty hard before doing this. I've spoken to people at Microsoft, and they don't see it as a risk at all, and they see it as a good thing for Xbox fans, and they see it as a good thing for their platform, and they see it as a good thing for developers. I've seen some developers express anxiety about it, about whether they'll be able to see a return if this becomes the norm. Kind of like how a lot of music artists complain that Spotify has destroyed the music industry with its streaming service, and they get a very, very small cut of the revenue from Spotify subscriptions. I think it was something like, I can't remember off the top of my head, but it was like, I'm sure Lady Gaga or someone was saying like it was pennies per play on a video or something. Some big celebrity was complaining about it. I don't know, but that there is that whole angle that some developers are worried that they're going to see less of a return on the royalties if they put their games into Game Pass. But and will gamers begin having an expectation of those games being in Game Pass and that sort of stuff? And so there is a lot of unknowns here, and a lot of it is going to be under NDA. We're never going to know a lot of the way the money's handled. We're never going to know the numbers and stuff like that. And developers aren't going to leak that information, or very unlikely to leak that information, because it's going to piss Microsoft off to high heaven, and stuff like that. And Microsoft can find out who leaked it and stuff like that. So why would a developer risk their relationship with one of the biggest platform holders by leaking that information? So there's a lot of unknowns here, Rand, and there's a lot of guesswork going into the way people are reacting to it. So the only real way people should be thinking about, is this a good thing? They shouldn't be worried about, is this a good thing for Microsoft? Because unless you've got shares in Microsoft, and by the way, Microsoft's share price went up pretty high after this announcement. I mean, also they announced some layoffs, which also increases share price for some reason. But Microsoft's share price went up by 3 points after they announced this news. It's leveled off a bit now, but it did go up, and it attracted a lot of positive reactions from business outlets and Business Insider and stuff like that. And there was a lot of positivity from those sorts of circles about this whole platform thing. So it looks like it could be a really good move. And I've spoken to people at Microsoft, and they've said things like, it means we can have more single player games, and we can use single player games to position single player games throughout the year to try and get people to subscribe to Game Pass, and Game Pass can be a way to subsidize those experiences which are being eaten up by service-driven games. Because I saw one criticism where people were saying, "Oh, Microsoft are only going to make service games now to try and keep people subscribed to Game Pass, like World of Warcraft. You pay $15 a month for World of Warcraft, you get shitloads of content every couple of months, and then every 2 years or every 2 or 3 years, World of Warcraft ships a huge expansion as well on top of that. So like World of Warcraft is this massive subscription-based money-making machine because it's constantly shipping new content and stuff like that. And if it works out for Microsoft, they can be like, well, we can ship single player games, spread them throughout the year, kind of like a service driven game spreads its patches throughout the year to try and drive up subscriptions to services like World of Warcraft and Final Fantasy 14 Realm Reborn and other subscription based games. So yeah, it's complicated, there's a lot of good, there's a lot of positives. And,
well, it's a big change because this like, look, everybody's kind of been conditioned for a long time to buying games at retail for $60, right? That was kind of the price. It's been $60 has been the price for some time. I know digital's been recently added. It kind of is coming into its own this gen. And even still, day one, it's $60. Even though a lot of people feel it should be cheaper than retail because you don't have the middleman, you don't have the packaging, you don't have the transport, all that stuff. People feel that digital is right. But you had two ways to consume, basically. You had physical and you had retail. I know streaming is on PS Now, but that's basically for backwards compatibility stuff on Sony's side, so that's not like new content. So that was the two ways you could do it. Now, Microsoft talked about having this Netflix for gaming, right? But it was always, and as much as I like the service, because I think it adds value for someone just coming into the Xbox ecosystem, doesn't have a lot of money, you can subscribe for a low price and get all these games that you wouldn't play. Even though I like the service and I'm subscribed to it, there's no like value to me in it because I own either all the games on the list or I've played all of them, right? And I'm sure a lot of people look at it like that. But now you bring it to prime time. Now it's really the Netflix for gaming because Netflix, they have all these subscribers. I think 100 million or something, right?
They just announce that Netflix is now worth $100 billion or something?
I'm not really sure how much Netflix is worth, but so you have all this revenue that you get from your subscriptions, right?
Sorry. Just literally earlier, Netflix crosses 100 billion market capitalization as subscribers surge. So Netflix is worth $100 billion.
Right. So the point is, like, Netflix bet big on original content. They took the money that people were giving them through these subscriptions and they produced stuff like Stranger Things or Daredevil, all the different original shows that people want to see, that keep you subscribed for the whole year, right? Microsoft saw that model, and they were only really missing the new original content. I mean, they have the backlog stuff. Netflix has the backlog stuff. Even the WWE has the backlog stuff because it's very similar to that. They were just kind of missing the original content. But with this, of them saying State of Decay 2 is day one, Sea of Thieves is day one, Crackdown 3 is day one, there's your original content. Now, just like Netflix and just like WWE, this whole plan hinges on the fact that the first party output not only is going to be increased, but also good. Because
I just thought something, Rand. They could start giving, instead of giving streamers and reviewers review copies, they can just give them a month of Game Pass.
Yeah, but I'm sure they want still the positive like reviews out before the game comes out, so people. But my point is that, like, this whole plan, whether or not it's successful or not, hinges on the fact that Microsoft can put out enough exclusive content into Game Pass going forward. Because if they can't, if their output has been like it's been like 2017, the service, in my opinion, is kind of dead on arrival. Because Netflix doesn't just, once they have their money, they just don't stop making shows. They continue to make shows because they need people to subscribe for the entire year. So Microsoft has to invest. They have to get their first parties, not only making great content, but timely content, because you need to string people along to keep the stuff going. And if that doesn't happen, if you end up in 2019 with no games or a game like Halo 6, and that's the only game they released at the end of the year, then people are going to unsubscribe in droves, right? You need to saturate that content, the pass with content. That's the only way it's going to be successful. And if you look at Netflix, it's been successful. Microsoft just needs to follow that strategy, and it will become successful. But of course, like I said, this either is going to be absolutely huge or it's going to blow up in their face. And if it blows up in their face, I don't even want to know what's going to happen to Microsoft, because they've essentially almost bet the entirety of Xbox on this. Because
Really?
I think so, because if it doesn't take off, how are you going to fund first-party studios? Because a game, whether it's Sea of Thieves or Halo, comes out, sells at $60, right? You sell 1 million copies, that's a lot of money. But if you don't have people subscribing, you don't have any money coming in. How are you supposed to fund Rare and Halo and 343 and Gear? Like, I'm just saying.
The thing about game development, it's the thing about game development and AAA game development, and one of the reasons I say it's unsustainable, is that there's this huge upfront risk where they have to invest millions of dollars to make these games. And then if the games flop, and it works the same in movies, if the movies flop, if the games flop, the gamble's screwed up, right? But if you are subsidizing that risk with subscription fees, like Xbox Game Pass, for example, the risk is diminished. And and that's why you get things like EA Access and Xbox Game Pass now, and that they are diminishing that risk to funding these games.
Well, you're right.
I suppose but I suppose for one of the reasons Microsoft might have struggled to get that investment from the higher ups at Microsoft might be because they're like, Microsoft seems to be incredibly risk averse. They had the Microsoft. I mean, we can talk about other Microsoft products to get an idea of their thinking here. And it's like, at least Satya Nadella's Microsoft. Satya Nadella seems to be risk averse. I mean, they had the whole Windows Phone thing. Rather than continuing to risk investment on that, Satya just killed it. He killed it dead. And instead of risking stuff on Microsoft ban, he just killed it dead, and rather than make these sort of risky moves, it feels like they're doubling down on what they do well rather than have all this risk involved. But however, Phil's probably put the case forward that you can't make a game service without great content. And look at Netflix, and people come to Netflix not just for the third-party stuff, but often the first-party stuff like House of Cards and all that sort of stuff. So, for Netflix, they offset the risk because they've got this cash flow thing. And I suppose in a way, Microsoft want to do that for Xbox, where they can be like, okay, Satya, you don't want this risk. Let's offset that, and stuff like that with the subscription, and they subsidize that risk. And
I know what they're thinking with this. I know what they're thinking. Like they would love to just have a set income that they can rely on every single month, similar to like Xbox Live, right? We've done the math. You've talked about it. Porter Rock did a video about it. Even PlayStation 4, if you take the attach rate with how much money or how much software they sold and put it down, like the average PlayStation user buys 2 games a year. The average Xbox user buys 2 games a year. That's it. There's a lot of games that come out. Now, this is a way of Microsoft monetizing, or at least getting money out of people that normally would never buy Sea of Thieves or State of Decay or any of these other games. The people that only play like Call of Duty and stuff. Because to a lot of people, $10 a month is pretty cheap. So they see this idea of like, if we can hit X amount of subs and string it along for an entire year, we're going to make more money than we ever would have like selling the games individually. And look, in this scenario, because like I said, I think this is going to be a big success, but also I can see it also not working. Like there's obviously positives and negatives. Nothing is obviously set in stone. Only time will tell. But the thing I like about this is I see people saying like this means that Microsoft isn't going to release like a lot of content. Number one, I disagree with that because I think this actually means Microsoft is planning to release more content. Because to keep a subscription service going, you have to have content in there that people want to play. And like I said, there and people have mentioned this in chat. There's 164 games in there, and that's true. And there are a lot of them are great games, but they're older games, right? People want to play the new hotness. So if you're putting all of Microsoft's games in there, that's the new hotness. That's the original content. They have to keep that content flowing for people to want to keep to subscribe. And of course, there will be people that basically don't, will game the system, that will subscribe 1 month for State of Decay 2 and beat it and then unsubscribe, or hell, subscribe in December and actually just beat all the exclusives that come out in a year. And fine, people do that. People do that with Netflix too. That's like part of like the thing, but most people don't do that. They don't do
EA access. I buy a month of EA access just to get the game early for the free trial. And then I cancel. But there's been a couple of times where I've forgotten to cancel and given EA an extra 2 or 3 months of subscription.
Jazz, do you have data that shows that Xbox gamers buy like 2 games a year?
Yeah, I have data from last year's GDC, and people on Twitter said I made this up. But this comes from Microsoft's research, Microsoft's own research, and I've still got it. I've got the PowerPoint presentation on my hard drive, I think, somewhere. But Microsoft's own research data says the vast majority of Xbox gamers only buy 1 to 2 games per year. Or maybe it's only play 1 to 2 games per year. But either way, it's like that's most people. They only play FIFA and COD. That's all they play. And they play sporadically. They don't play hardcore. And that's most gamers. They try to fit it around their busy modern lives, socializing most of the time or doing that other stuff, and then they just maybe play Call of Duty for half an hour after work or something like that, and they've got kids and stuff like that. And COD, Madden, and FIFA, FIFA in Europe and Madden in America and Call of Duty everywhere. That's what most people do. But and it's like you say, Xbox Live and Xbox Game Pass were about monetizing those users. And Shane, I tweeted that yesterday, and Seamus Blackley, who's the father of Xbox, he said, "Oh no, our secret recipe is compromised," because it's so obvious. It's so obvious. That's what it's about. It's about monetizing the casuals, and it'll work. It will work, I think.
Well, I mean, there are some concerns. People say that like, hey, this devalues Xbox games in our eyes, because now Xbox games, and I've seen people say this, are $10. It's like $5 footlong or a $10 Xbox game. So a lot of people now view State of Decay 2 as a $10 game, or Crackdown 3 as a $10 game. And then on the same day, Microsoft makes this potentially industry-changing announcement, because all the publishers and developers are looking at this, wondering how this is going to play out. Because if it's a huge success, everybody's going to be on board. If it's a huge failure and blows up Microsoft's face, there's going to be consequences from that. But Sony then releases a trailer for God of War, and it's like, wow, like a $60 cinematic potential masterpiece.
That's the thing, Rand. It's like that you're talking about people's emotions, and you're talking about a certain type of gamers' emotions. You're talking about people who are like, they want that experience of being a little kid going to a store and spending their pocket money on a $60 game. They want that experience, and they'll have that. They'll be able to have that experience if they want it. But the thing is, kids today aren't growing up like that. Kids today are growing up playing free-to-play mobile games. They're growing up playing Fortnite. Fortnite's the big hotness now, and they grew up playing Minecraft and stuff like that. They don't see games as this sort of ritualistic way a lot of people our age do, where that you've got like your shelf with all your games on. And what I'm saying might be unpopular here, because often it is when you're playing with people's emotions, and a lot of this backlash seems to stem from the way people feel towards the way game distribution should be. It's a way the game distribution should be this way, because that's the way it's always been. Stop changing it. And people get upset about that. But it's irrational. And Microsoft has to not listen to the vocal minority. They have to look at the trends and look at what the next generation of gamers, how they see games, how they want to play games. And they would rather probably pay a subscription or they'd rather pay like $10 and have a little bit of games for a month and then unsubscribe or stuff like that. That's the world they're growing up in now.
Well,
And this
I
is a
get it,
way
but, like,
to preserve the important stuff, which is the gameplay, to stop everything becoming Candy Crush. You know, and that's the way EA wants it. I wouldn't be surprised if EA would be totally happy killing BioWare, forgetting story-driven games completely, and just being like, EA now is going to be the Battlefield, FIFA, Madden company, and we're only going to make service-driven games, and that's all EA is going to do. I wouldn't be surprised if that is the future for EA.
You know,
I wouldn't be surprised. But that's not Microsoft. That's not
Smooth
fair.
September actually brings up an interesting question, which I want to answer, because he says, "Are Netflix series devalued because they're on Netflix, right?" And you know what? Originally, when they started doing original content,
Yeah,
nobody was behind the idea. In fact, people laughed at Netflix producing content. People laughed when they started getting awards. It wasn't until like House of Cards and they actually started producing great content that the misnomer that, oh, it's Netflix, went out the window. All Microsoft has to do is show with this, even if they're $10 or whatever, if they can still put out a fantastic game, then all that devalued stuff will go away. It's on Microsoft to put that aside. Because I mean, let's be honest, last year was fucking terrible. I don't know how many times I got to say it. It should never happen again. Like if you're gonna put out the output in Game Pass in 2017's your template, it's gonna fail. It's gonna blow up in your face. Now this year looks a lot better. I mean, we have 3 games announced that are going in there, potentially Forza Horizon 4 at the end of the year. And you have the new Fable game, which is going to be made by Playground, which is awesome. All Microsoft has to do is to show that they're still committed to building huge, expensive games like a Halo 6 and Gears 5. Make those games great, and the misnomer that these games are cheap and devalued will go away, very similar to how it went away for Netflix. That's like what they need to do. But if they don't do it, if Halo 6 comes out and has a sparse campaign that lasts 3 hours and the multiplayer is loot box ridden, then all the complaints will just resurface. Because that's the other thing I hear, is that how is Microsoft going to make money selling these things when they were originally selling for $60 or $100? You have all this money coming in. Now you're selling it for $10. And you in this situation, are they going to be forced to put more microtransactions and DLC in there? Right? I mean, but previously there was always DLC in Microsoft games anyways, but that's like, how are Microsoft going to fund these games? And I mean, I see that as a question that people ask, and obviously, like, the only ones who can answer that are Microsoft, and they have to be the ones to put the proof is in the pudding. And the finest says, Rand, will the price go up like Netflix, $20 to $30 a month? I don't think so. If anything, the price will go up maybe $1 or $2 like a year later. I think they'll write out $10 for the year.
They'll probably do the inflation thing, because World of Warcraft subscription fees went up recently to adjust for inflation because that game is old. So they have to put it up to adjust for inflation. But I think this is going to be stay at a baseline. I don't think they're just going to start cranking it up because people think it's a too good of a deal. I think what's more likely to happen is they'll introduce add-ons or tiers, kind of like what Netflix does. So Netflix does the whole, you can have 2 people accessing your Netflix for this price, and you can have 4 people accessing your Netflix for this price with 4K streaming. I think like what Microsoft will do is they'll have a baseline Game Pass, and then they'll have Game Pass Pro, which introduces game streaming to other devices, for example.
Right, and as FK says, this sounds way too risky. And you know what? It is damn risky. It is incredibly risky. I mean, if this works like Microsoft thinks it's going to work, it's going to be a huge boon to their bottom line. They're going to make so much money from this, and then they'll just funnel it back into making more games, more first-party content for Game Pass as added value to it to get more people to subscribe. If people don't take to that idea and don't subscribe and it doesn't make any money, it's going to be a huge failure. Nothing's for certain in life and in business. Of course, there's going to be risks to this as well. I mean, you don't know how consumers. I mean, look at what just in the Xbox community. There are some people who love this move. Like I think the move is great, but I'm still like looking at it from both the positive, negatives. Like I'm not saying like this is, oh my God, Microsoft's going to kill Sony and Nintendo now. But like, I think this is an interesting strategy to try to compete with those two and offer something different that the others aren't doing.
That's the thing, Ron. That's the thing. That's all they can do at this point. They are so far behind Sony. They can't compete with Sony using Sony's model anymore. They can't compete with Sony using a traditional model. They have to differentiate. They have to offer something different. And it's not as dire as Windows Phone situation was, where Windows Phone was coming in from a position of 0%. At least Xbox is coming in from a position of 30% or something. So like Windows Phone was trying to offer all this differentiation, but it just all failed because it didn't matter. They were just too far gone. But Xbox still has a chance to turn this around, and the only way that can do it is with differentiation. They've done it with 4K, which is like it's a little bit of differentiation that like they've delivered 4K in a very, very small device, which is really impressive, and it's a great product. That's a bit of differentiation. And then Xbox Game Pass is the next bit of differentiation, and backwards compatibility is another bit of differentiation. So all the differentiation is what's going to help them, and expect more of this. There's going to be more features and systems that Xbox tries to position its strategy in a way that it doesn't appear to be competing with Sony head on. They want to be like, this is what we're doing, this is the way we see it,
Right. I mean, I'm just saying there are some Xbox gamers that love this. That's going to save them money. Because think about it. If you're going to buy a Sea of Thieves, Crackdown, and State of Decay, and let's just throw Forza Horizon 4 in there, day one, that's $240. That's a lot of money to a lot, that's a lot. But 1 year of Game Pass is $120, right? It's 2 games. So now, like, you have people who are like, I'm in because I want to play all those games and it's saving me money. Thank you, Microsoft. It's one of the most pro-consumer move I've seen from a company yet. Like, the ability to, like, save money. Because think about it, like, when like iTunes came around and all these different kind of digital stuff, like you used to buy a record or a CD for $20, then you just bought singles on iTunes for $1, then you can just stream music for free on Spotify. Like, it changed things, but we never saw that kind of reflected in video games, right? Like, it was always $60 physical, $60 digital. Digital didn't get the discount, but now digital kind of does get the discount, because now you can subscribe and play Sea of Thieves for a month at $10. Like, that is a huge advantage over just paying, $60 for it. Like, you're saving $50 on that. Granted, if you subscribe for the year, it's $120, but you have all the other games that come out with it. Now, of course, there are some people that feel that this is the end of Microsoft, that every game they're putting out forward is going to be low budget, filled with microtransactions, and that they're going down the path that they don't want to follow. I mean, who knows where this is all going to end up? Like,
I heard that in Padme's voice. In Star Wars, where she's
Star Wars, yeah.
You're going down a path I can't follow.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. Like, people were upset when Xbox announced Xbox Play Anywhere, right? Like, people were furious when Xbox was like, we're putting all of our games on PC.
People were mad. People were so mad.
I mean, how did that turn out? Like, I don't think it really did anything for Microsoft. The Windows 10 store is still a joke. Like,
yeah, it is.
I mean, it didn't really change anything. But this is, look, I'm trying to find the negatives in it. And like, I've listed them, like, clearly. And the only ones who are going to be able to prove me wrong is Microsoft themselves. If they invest, like I think they're going to, and like I've kind of heard they are, because you've heard the same,
that
Microsoft is spending a ton of money now.
Cash money.
To make that Game Pass a viable feature that everybody on Xbox has to own, and they constantly put new content, new games in there, it's going to be a huge success. But if they shirk on the content and they don't put it in there, and the content is bad, it's not going to be good. The only thing it'll be good for is just saving money. It'll be used as a demo station. Only time's going to tell. And hopefully Microsoft, they realize this too. Look, none of us here know. None of anybody here watching, unless you're from Xbox and who make these videos and do these podcasts, I don't know what it costs to run at the Xbox division. I don't know what it costs to make a Gears of War or Halo. I don't know what it costs to build a God of War. I don't know like how much Microsoft brings in from game sales on their first party, and how much it costs to actually keep 343 and the coalition running. I don't know what Microsoft's projections are for Game Pass. I don't know what their current subscription base is. I don't know what they get. Like, we don't have any of this data. So it's all just kind of spitballing here. It's all just kind of speculation, like thinking about what we like about this, what potentially be going in the future. The only ones that know are basically Microsoft, and right? Like, they have everything. So they obviously feel that this is the right course of action. Not only is the right course of action, but it's the best course of action.
I mean,
so
I'll say, like, people that I've spoken to at Microsoft, like people on the higher up, they seem pretty confident about it. So I don't think this is for them. I think it's probably not as big as a risk as people think, and I think a lot of it is just emotions. People worried that the status quo is changing, the world's not like it used to be, and that's pretty much what everyone's freaking out about constantly now. Is just, oh, change! It's scary, man. Rand, people freak out when Facebook changes the pixels, the font size on the news feed.
I know people freak out when YouTube changes the layout of the stuff too. But here's an interesting thing. Definus brought this up, and this is something me and you have talked about previously on a podcast. He goes, "Do we see Game Pass going everywhere? They don't want to be in console business. Microsoft cares about money, not console wars." And I remember you said a couple podcasts ago that you could see a future where the streaming service that Phil talked about launching in a few years potentially could end up on PlayStation and Nintendo Switch.
Well, I don't think Xbox Game Pass is going to end up on PlayStation because I don't think Sony would allow it. But I think Microsoft would happily put Game Pass streaming on Switch, PlayStation. You're going to see this on Android. You're going to see it on iOS. Highly believe Game Pass will be on Android and iOS in the future, streaming from the cloud. And even Nintendo Switch. If Nintendo are down for that, and if Nintendo feel like this is a way we can get photorealistic games onto the Switch, and Microsoft think this is a way we can get a shitload more subscriptions, it'll happen. It'll be on Windows tablets, it'll be on Android tablets, iPads, it'll be on everything. Guarantee. When that streaming service comes out, don't expect it to be Microsoft exclusive. I'll happily put my name to that. It's not going to be Xbox exclusive at all.
Now, some people are wondering if this will include like pre-order DLC and stuff like that. I don't think it will. I think it'll just be the game. I think retailers are gonna, because I've been wondering how GameStop and Best Buy and Amazon are gonna take to this, because you would assume they would see less sales of retail games. But I mean, I guess it's possible they just offer more pre-order incentives, like pre-order $60 retail and get X amount of like cosmetic stuff or digital money for the game. I guess they could go like that. There's also the talk that could Microsoft pull a fast one and pull games from the service, right? Because that seems to be the talk going around today, is that any of those games that go in there, the Microsoft's going to remove them.
Well, that's the thing. The first thing I did when I heard this was I sent an email to Xbox PR and I said, are the games going to be in there permanently, or are they going to be removed after a month? Are you going to pull? Is this going to be a bait and switch tactic? And Xbox PR was like, that basically they said that's all we've got to announce today. So that made me think, oh, they are going to be removed. But then Aaron Greenberg earlier said that they're going to be permanently as part of Game Pass, right?
Well, okay, I'm going to bring up his tweet because then Major Nelson also retweeted him. So okay, Aaron Greenberg.
Let's analyze what Aaron Greenberg said.
So Aaron Greenberg said about an hour ago, he says, some of our Xbox fans have asked, so we wanted to share. We're adding new Xbox One exclusives to Xbox Game Pass with the intention of them being a regular part of the value for being an Xbox Game Pass subscriber going forward. And then Major Nelson retweeted that and said, in other words, the Xbox One exclusives will be a permanent part of Game Pass moving forward. Which makes sense, because like they're your own games. Why would you remove them? You know what I mean? Like, I understand when you work with third parties, contracts are in place, licenses. Only 2 games have been removed, like Metal Gear 5 and I forget the other one. But they're your own games. Like, the only ones, you know what I'm saying? Like, so they're already coming out today saying Aaron Greenberg, Major Nelson, that like they're going to be in there and they're going to be in there permanently. Of course, I mean, who knows how long permanently actually means, a year or 2 years from now. Of course, I also see people saying that like you don't own your games. And of course, it's a subscription service, just like Xbox Live Gold and PlayStation. Now you don't own that stuff. Like you only can watch it or play it while you're a subscriber. Technically, when you buy the game digitally for $60, you don't own the game either. You have a license to play that game. You know, like it's all in the terms of service. I mean, Microsoft could ban you and you could never access any of your stuff. So yes, you don't own your game. You don't own it. You don't own your digital stuff either. But a lot of people are just happy with just being able to possibly, like, look, I've talked to and seen a lot of people on Twitter like, I have no interest in Sea of Thieves and State of Decay 2, but for $10, I'm in. And I think that's what Microsoft's hoping on, is that for that low price, they can get people in and get people to play these games that they never would have played. Like we talked about, only two games a year for Xbox players. That's incredibly low. But if you can get those players, get them to subscribe for that price, and then try out this stuff, who knows what can happen? I honestly think the sky's the limit here. Of course, that's on the positive side. That's on like the optimist. You know, there's also the downside, which maybe nobody knows about this. Maybe like for this to be successful, does it have to get outside of the YouTube, Twitter crowd? Does it have to be advertised at stores like GameStop and Best Buy, put on television ads? You know, like it has to reach a huge audience. And I know they advertise this on the dashboard, but sometimes that's not enough, because hell, they advertised Recore on the dashboard and that didn't do very well either. And same thing with Quantum Break.
Yeah, they've got to push Game Pass out to the masses via TV ads and stuff like that.
Yeah. And that's another thing I want to talk about, like the idea that this could help single player games, because in a similar way that Netflix does their business model, where because it's just one pool of like a revenue coming in, like TV shows aren't necessarily evaluated based on their individual performance anymore, right? It's just a pool of money and they need the content. In fact, Netflix was chastised for actually keeping shows around longer than they should be. Whereas like Microsoft, like Quantum Break was judged on the basis of how Quantum Break did. If Quantum Break didn't reach this number, we weren't continuing with the franchise.
That's a really good point, man. I didn't even think of it that way. I mean, imagine if like, yeah, well, continue.
Well, so Quantum Break and Sunset Overdrive and Rise, they all had things they had to meet to be able to do sequels. They didn't meet them. But in this new scenario where it's just a pool of revenue, right, where Halo's in there and Gears in there and stuff, say a game doesn't do particularly well, they can still make a sequel to it because it's part of the value of Game Pass, which is their primary revenue driver. It's why Netflix constantly creates new seasons for their shows, even if the shows don't really pull well, because they need the content. So in a scenario, well, who knows? Quantum Break, if it launched now and did those numbers, like maybe we get a Quantum Break 2. I don't know.
Yeah, like they measure, what if they measure like, I mean, exactly. Maybe people don't buy Quantum Break outright because it's one of those sort of fire and forget games. I've only played through Quantum Break once and never touched it again afterwards. I picked it up to try the 4K and didn't finish it. And it's a game that I would have traded in if you could trade in digital games. So for a lot of people, they just wouldn't have purchased it because it's like there's no multiplayer. There's no service component. There's kind of like, this is the kind of game that I'm going to wait for a sale, get really cheap, or maybe just not even buy it all and just forget about it. But if people think like, well, instead of buying Quantum Break, what I'll do is I'll subscribe to Game Pass. And if Microsoft sees like when Quantum Break launched, they get like an extra however many % of new Game Pass subscribers, maybe they'll consider that a win, you know. And maybe that, for them, that'll be like, okay, now we've built up a fan base, we've built up a small core of fans in Quantum Break through Game Pass rather than actual game sales. That's might be enough to justify a sequel and to keep those subscribers happy and stuff like that. So I agree. I think there's a huge amount of potential here. There's a huge amount of risk, but if it pays off, it could change everything, man.
That's why I said it could potentially be a game changer. Like,
I want it to be a game changer. I want Quantum Break 2. Rand.
Well, I know. I mean, this could, if this, I mean, I know it's probably never going to happen, but if this becomes a huge success, maybe Microsoft does go to Insomniac and be like, build us Sunset Overdrive 2. You know? Because, I mean, you look at it like clearly, what they were doing before didn't work. Clearly.
That's another thing. That's another thing that Netflix does is they target cult followings and try to develop new content for those cult followings. So like it's kind of like they made, like, for example, they made a Death Note thing that wasn't that good, but they, for that month, every Death Note fanboy and fangirl probably subscribed to Netflix for the first time, and maybe they discovered that they actually really like Netflix just because they advertised to that cult fan base. You know, so maybe Microsoft can use Netflix as a way to rope in cult fan bases from loads of all sorts of dead franchises and stuff. It could be really interesting the way Microsoft approaches how to get people into Game Pass. Could be really interesting. I mean, I suppose the downside is that games take a long time to develop, so it's not like it's not like Netflix can just churn out animated feature or something. They even made a Castlevania movie, didn't they? Netflix.
I mean, there was like an 8-episode series. I mean,
that it was crazy.
Right movie with Will Smith or whatever. I read cost like $100 million to make. An episode of Stranger Things, I think, was like $3 million. Exactly. Like the Netflix shows are expensive to make, but they make them because it adds value to the service and they need people to subscribe. So Microsoft, if they're obviously talked, because when they originally announced it said Netflix of gaming, so they need to literally copy the model. They need to pump in content in a good pace, and it has to be good content for this to be successful. And if they do that, this may change the fortunes for Microsoft. Not saying they'll beat Sony or Nintendo or anything like that, but change like how Microsoft goes about making games. I don't know. I mean,
ultimately it's good for fans. It's going to be good for Xbox fans, and everyone's worrying about this is going to hurt Microsoft's money, blah blah. It's like, it doesn't matter ultimately about that, unless you work for Microsoft or you got Microsoft stock. It shouldn't matter to you. What should matter to you is you're going to get more games, potentially more quality games, and they're going to be available at a fairly cheap subscription price. So it's exciting. I'm really intrigued to see how this evolves over the next couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, this was something like I was always kind of like, okay, Game Pass, that's really cool, but what's the end play? What's the end goal? And then yesterday, this is the end goal. This is the end play.
I think the true end play is getting it onto other devices.
True, because Netflix is literally on every device, right? They're on literally every device, and they have 100 million subscribers. Microsoft, to make this even bigger and more viable, has to be on a bunch of other devices. I'm kind of curious to see what Microsoft's projections are.
Listen to this, Rand. Listen to this. Someone high up at Microsoft once told me, we were talking about the whole game streaming thing, and they specifically told me, you've got to think about it this way. We want to reach other devices because apparently the number one device used to watch Game of Thrones is an Android phone, right? You can't get AAA games on an Android phone right now. You can't even get real games on an Android phone. Imagine if Microsoft made some kind of Xbox controller for Android phones that clips the phone onto it. And I mean, they're already third-party.
It's interesting you say that, because Android is Google, is it not? Right?
Yeah, but Google has no control.
Who did Google just hire?
Yes,
Phil Harrison.
Phil Harrison.
What has Phil Harrison done? He's been at Sony and at Like, I don't know. There's some gaming thing brewing at Google. I mean, why else would you hire someone like Phil Harrison, right?
They are, well, for example, Google has no control over Android, because similarly to the way Microsoft has no control over Windows, the biggest Android vendor is actually Tencent in China, and they own League of Legends and stuff like that. And what does Tencent do? They pump out original games for Android, for their personal Android platform, for their Android fork. So they're looking to that model. to reach new audiences. It's Google's not going to make an Android gaming console because they've got an Android gaming console called Android. Android Snapdragon processors are getting more powerful all the time. You can almost get like 360 era graphics on a high powered Android phone now. It's almost there. But Microsoft wants to reach that audience, man. They want to reach beyond the TV. They want to be in your pocket.
Yeah.
And that's the true end goal. That's the true end goal of Game Pass, is your game library everywhere. So
at a low monthly cost. I mean, I get it, but also at the same time, just because they do this stuff doesn't mean it's be successful. I mean, these were also people that thought the Kinect was what people wanted, and they decided to bundle it with the Xbox One. So, just because they have the data and all this stuff doesn't mean it's the right way. They're looking at the data right or interpreting it right. They make decisions which can be bad. Sony's,
the senior leadership team at Microsoft is completely different now, though.
Oh, I know. I'm just saying things happen. People make mistakes. Companies make mistakes. Sony made mistakes. Sure, Nintendo's made mistakes. Microsoft makes mistakes. Like, it happens. That's just kind of the basis of it.
Who doesn't make mistakes?
Blizzard?
Yeah.
It's like Blizzard. So another thing I just wanted to say is, like, Microsoft, like, since you made this announcement and you've said, like, hey, all the games are going out there, they better all come. Like, you've set this, like, foot down the path. So, like, I don't want to hear for a year from now that fucking Gears of War 6 isn't coming. Like, you've set it up, you set the expectations in a row. So whatever exclusives you publish for Microsoft Game Studios better come. Yeah. Like that needs to happen. Like, because I know, there's always these wiggle room and these PR statements. Like, right now, people are extremely excited. People are happy. Of course, there are people upset about it, and that's their prerogative. But don't give people ammunition to start throwing at the other thing. Like, it needs to be all of your games. Like, they all need to go on there. Like, so hopefully they realize that and start making, like, I know that you're published, you're funding new stuff. Hopefully you can get more stuff going and put it at a good clip, because that is what you need for this to be successful, in my opinion. Good content at a steady rate.
Yep.
And with that, you know what? Let's take a couple questions before we get out of here, shall we?
Give us your questions, guys, and hit that like button if you want to support Randy's channel. Support
the show. So anybody, I know people have questions because this is like a huge topic. So let's see them. Let's see them questions, man.
Man, why isn't Capcom giving me a Monster Hunter review key? That's what I want to know.
I don't know. Who cares about Monster? It's all about that PUBG life,
dude. Don't speak ill of Monster Hunter, man. I've got such high expectations for that game for no reason.
How many people use Game Pass? I don't know. Will Microsoft ever tell us? No.
I think Microsoft will start talking Game Pass numbers when it's big.
Yeah, probably. If it ever reached like 10 million subs, I'm sure they would announce it at that point.
Trumpet that, yeah.
I would imagine it's well over 1 million. Like, I would imagine it's probably well over 2 million. I don't know. Like, nobody knows. Only people that know is Microsoft and maybe some of the third parties. I don't know. But yeah. Nobody knows. Nobody knows anything about Microsoft. Nobody knows how many Xbox Ones they've sold. Nobody knows.
Everyone knows how many Windows phones I sold last year.
Luke Taylor Rogue One wants to know, Rand, do you think they'll release Master Chief Collection on PC? Interesting.
Ooh,
because they are reworking it for the Xbox One X. So
that's really interesting. Now, honestly, I think they would probably like to, but it depends what the technical limitations are, because everyone knows how much of a mess Master Chief Collection was when it launched. It was a mess. I mean, it worked. I think the single player worked fine, I think, but the multiplayer was overly complex. But if they release Master Chief Collection on PC, it will be huge. So
I think that would probably it's on Windows Store.
Well, yeah, there's that.
Yeah.
That's a whole other kettle of fish.
Supersonic Station wants to know if I liked VR because he missed that part. Yes, my initial impression is, oh, and then I got sick. So we'll try again with a different game. But yes,
You want to play Summer Lesson on PSVR?
I don't know. Should I?
Yeah, I think you should.
Stockholders know, right? I doubt stockholders know the exact number of subscriptions because
No,
if
they
they
don't.
did, we would
They
know.
don't. They
So,
don't. Stockholders don't know. They are not told. I think like maybe some of the bigger ones, maybe in a friendly conversation, but they don't give that information in the stockholders calls and stuff like that. It'd leak if they did. So no.
yeah.
I mean, the Microsoft has millions of stockholders, so that would definitely leak if they were giving that information out freely.
Lobo Louis 2 wants to know if this Game Pass news will help or hinder acquiring new studios.
Well, I think it goes back to what you were saying about Microsoft needing first-party content. I think Microsoft are looking for. I think they are looking for studios to, fill up that content. But it's about whether Microsoft can close those deals because they don't. Xbox doesn't seem to have been particularly great at closing down deals recently. Didn't they try to buy Bluehole?
I mean, apparently everybody tried to buy Bluehole, so I mean, it makes sense. I mean, if they have, I mean, maybe in the future, I mean, if they have this huge pool of revenue they could dig from to buy somebody, I mean, I don't know. There's those rumors that they've supposedly bought 3 studios already, but
Do you remember when the No reported that Microsoft had purchased the Silent Hill franchise?
I remember.
That was the weirdest rumor.
And they purchased it for the $2 billion. I remember that. I'm like, what? No, they sure know, right?
Man,
do you guys
if they did, that'd be interesting if they did.
Do you guys think Fax Machine wants to know if we think Microsoft Studio games, all Microsoft Studio games that are already out, will come to the service? I think eventually, yeah. I know Halo Wars 2 is being added for February. Halo 5's in there. Recore's in there. Gears 5 is in there. Sunset Overdrive is in there. I think it's only a matter of time before all Microsoft games are in there, and they're probably just going to piecemeal it. Like, okay, March is Sea of Thieves, so it doesn't make sense to put another Microsoft game in there.
Maybe with some second-party studios like Remedy, there's probably deals they've got to lock down for royalties and stuff like that. So, like, eventually I think everything will eventually, but I want to get to this question from Uncompetitive, who says, question for Jez, will Microsoft build the top Windows 10s to make a Windows 10X that is friendly to gamers? It's interesting you asked that question because this week, Zach Bowden, I believe, published an article. Microsoft is currently working on something called Windows Core OS, I think it's called. And it's basically like a modular version of Windows. And using this modular version of Windows, they can take Windows 10 and make it work on any kind of device. So there will be like an Xbox version of the Windows 10 Core OS. So like, yeah, basically, there's going to be like an Xbox UI for Windows 10 eventually. If you want to have a PC, but you want to have maybe you want to put the PC in your living room and use it as purely a game machine, it'll have a UI that makes it more friendly to gamers. So I think that is something they're working on through Seashell. Look it up on Windows Central. Just search for Seashell and Windows Core OS, and it should be there somewhere. I think it's part of our Andromeda coverage. Because the Surface Phone, quote unquote, runs on this Windows Core OS, where it's just like it's running Windows 10, but it automatically detects that it's running on a tablet and turns into a tablet operating system. So
the other piece of news that we missed was Minecraft. 144 million copies sold, 75 million monthly active users for December.
Oh yeah, God, I didn't know that many. 74 million.
Yeah, that's
active
like
users.
That's it. Half as many people own the game, right? Like, and I thought about making a video about this, but I really couldn't find the info, so I didn't. But that's more than Xbox Live monthly active users.
Yeah, of course it is.
I think that's more than PlayStation Network and Steam.
It is.
Because I'm pretty sure PlayStation announced 70 something, and I think Steam, it was because PlayStation was higher than Steam, and like they're pretty close. So it's possible more people play Minecraft than people play PlayStation Network, Steam, and Xbox Live.
Yeah, for sure. But it's kind of like, how much of the money is Microsoft seeing from that, though? I mean,
Well, I mean, you know, they probably see 100% from the PC and the Xbox. I know Sony takes a cut for PlayStation. I'm assuming Nintendo takes a cut on Nintendo.
no, but I mean,
Uh,
like, for example, the PC version doesn't have microtransactions in it.
I mean, I don't know.
Nobody's playing the Windows 10 version. I don't think they're all playing the PC Java Classic version, which I don't think has the store in it, or maybe
But I
it
mean,
does.
think
I don't
about
know.
that. Like, 74 million people played. That's how many people played Minecraft in a month. Like, that's like absurd
It's
to think
absurd.
about. And I know, I
It's
know, I know. People like to say, "Oh, they should just have made Minecraft 2 and made it exclusive to Xbox." Like,
no,
this kind of proves you, because I know Jeremy the Downer always said, make Minecraft 2, make it exclusive to Xbox. But like, this just proves that no, they shouldn't have. They should have did exactly what they did, put it everywhere,
yeah.
and like it's just
You should look at what Microsoft has done with Minecraft when you think about what they're going to do with Game Pass. They have redeveloped Minecraft so it runs on anything with the same code base. So like it with the same code base, the Bedrock engine, it runs on Android, iOS, Nintendo Switch, Xbox, PC, tablets, phones, everything. And you can have a realm which you pay a subscription for, which connects all these devices together, and that's like £10 a month. I'm paying for a realm. I've completely forgot about it. I subscribed for a realm, and I barely ever play Minecraft. So Microsoft's fleecing me. I subscribe for Office 365. I subscribe for Groove. I subscribe for Minecraft. I subscribe for Xbox Live.
you know, the Xbox Game Pass thing, Jez. You just reminded me, like this whole, like, you buy the game for $60 or you could subscribe for 10 thing now. You know, they did that similar with Office, because Office was always a one-time thing, but then they changed to a monthly charge. That didn't
Yeah.
really hurt them. In fact, I think it really helped them. I don't
Yeah.
know. I think
I
sometimes.
just wanna address the almighty Spartan God who said, "Wow, Jez left out PlayStation." Sony left out PlayStation. They didn't want the Bedrock version of Minecraft on PlayStation, so blame them, pal. It's Sony's fault.
Yeah, I mean, we know how Sony doesn't like crossplay, but apparently Fortnite gets away with it a bunch
Yeah,
because it happened again. It happened again, but nobody died. Kids were safe.
it happened again.
Yeah, like
I didn't
last
know.
weekend. Yep, it happened again. But I think it's time we get out of here, and it's getting late. I know Jez is a little bit tired. We had a lot to talk about, so thank you guys for joining us. Enjoyed the conversation. If you enjoyed the podcast, make sure you hit the like, as it helps out the show and the channel as well. Jez, what do you got going on, buddy?
I am blah blah blah.
Blah, blah,
I'm
blah.
not doing much really. I'm traveling back to the UK next week for reasons. Going to be checking out a game secretly, so look out for that in February. Other than that, nothing much. What are you up to, man?
Not much. I mean, I got a class I got to go to in about an hour, and then I got some PUBG to play. I got some God of War 3 to play because I want to play that because God of War 4 is coming. Probably try some Sea of Thieves. We'll see if any of the indie games that come out this week interest me, but I don't think any of them do. You know, time's getting a little tight, but I do what I can. But I love doing the show with you. I love doing it for everybody that watches and listens. So make sure you comment if you want to mention about anything about the show that you liked or disliked. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new or haven't already. Follow Jez on Twitter. All the social media stuff is in the description, as it always
All
is.
around on Twitter too.
Yeah, because I'm a dude, right? As you said. And thanks, guys. And we will see you next week with hopefully some other great new announcements, right? Because that's what it seems like it's been for 2018 so far. So, all right, guys. See you later.